This episode is brought to you by Regional Economic Development, a program under MU Extension's Business and Communities. Welcome to Show Me Mo Success, where we explore how people turn passion into action in order to make a difference, and how MU Extension's Business and Communities program gave them a little boost along the way. I'm Mike Quinata, Assistant Director for Business and Communities, subbing in for your Show Me Mo Success host, Luke Dieterle, who is on assignment. On today's show, we talk to Sunrise Beach resident Jennifer Bardot, founder and CEO of G.R.I.T, keynote speaker at the Elevate conference. So Jennifer, one of the foundations of your G.R.I.T concept is intentionality. And we have found when we interview successful entrepreneurs that intentionality has been a constant throughout their life, that they're mindful of what they do and what they learn and how they portray that. Is that true for you?
100%. I come from a family in construction. They've been in the industry for over 92 years. I grew up in a family where my mom was a top F&I producer in the car industry, and my grandma had to learn things a little bit differently because she lost her husband at a young age and had to raise 3 kids and started her own business out of her home. And then I had my uncle, who was another entrepreneur, and just kind of always watching and seeing how they did things and then incorporating it in my own style. And my first business was at the lake. I owned a residential commercial cleaning company, and I had just graduated from my undergraduate as a first generation college student. And I quickly realized that a cleaning company at the lake was easily to be replaced. So I went to grad school, I went to MSU, and always by kind of understanding where I wanted to go as my end game kept me motivated and moving forward. Here I am today. I have my own lake house while running a business. I'm slowly growing out G.R.I.T to be an organization that supports women all over the state of Missouri. It was all because I stepped into the fear of the unknown and embraced my courage. But it was also like jumping off the cliffs at the lake, learning how to just push through that fear and doing it intentionally, and then incorporating that in my business sense as well.
So that entrepreneurial journey that you've done completely on your own by facing the fear, talk a little bit about what building blocks that you use to overcome that fear. Because in changes, someone's journey, it's not really the speed of the change, it's the direction of the change.
It's truly like owning my grit, which I've defined as growth, resilience, intention, and tenacity. Pushing through the suck, as I put it. When I owned my business at the Lake of the Ozarks, I was 21 years old. I'm a female trying to own this professional cleaning company. So I'm trying to get business from realtors and brokers and new condo complexes. And I would say it was all about the hustle. It wasn't about anything other than the hustle, the sheer grit of getting up each day and proving your worth and trying to build those relationships to secure those contracts. And I've utilized that same strategy in my business that I have today, building the relationships, surrounding yourself by people that actually truly want to support you and to open those doors. Because I think it's just those relationship skills and being scrappy and learning how to be intentional about where you're headed and being able to communicate that effectively is how the doors truly open and you're able to achieve the goals that you have set out to achieve.
Yeah, I can learn a lot from that because I have my own small business on the side, and you have to be resourceful and scrappy and intentional. All of those things, just keep driving forward. You can't worry about the speed, but the direction you're going and just continuing to put out good work.
I would just say like another thing that I've learned to do, which is difficult, is give yourself grace because not every day is going to look the same. Someday, you're like running 1,000 miles and the other day you're like, oh, I did 2 steps, but it's progress as long as it's in the right direction.
Give us a little picture of you prior to your G.R.I.T start.
At the time, I was a banker, so I was trying to secure all these PPP loans to help my small businesses survive during this time of COVID. And sure, I was in this beautiful setting. The lake couldn't get more gorgeous, but yet our world was just like full of sadness and hardship. And all the clients that I was supporting during this time were just at a loss. They very much felt stuck because they were trying to understand how they could continue to grow and flourish their business, but then there were so many struggles. So I remember literally like looking out at the lake. I just had this epiphany and I'm like, what is something in my wheelhouse that I could do to create hope? And I come from a background of having 2 masters in counseling, and I love people's stories. And I think there's a way that we can really honor these stories to show similarities and alleviate loneliness. I went out to my clients and I said, hey, I have this idea of putting together this book, this a collection of 40 women's stories to really showcase hardship, to create hope. And maybe this will be like the blueprint to others that are like lost their journey and their hope. That's where this whole concept came from.
Storyteller aspect of that is sort of the arc of somebody needing something, a little help along the way. And it sounds like you hit it right on the head to provide that, especially for women.
It was COVID, times were really tough. I decided I'm going to take on another challenge and write a book. And I have dyslexia. So, like, that's probably one of the hardest things that I could ever done. But as I mentioned before, when you have the right support system around you, things happen. And I happened to be in a mastermind with a woman that I'd seen what she had created in St. Louis with other anthologies and showcasing women's stories. So I reached out to her with this idea.
So, Jennifer, explain a little bit about what the mastermind is.
What it is it's a small cohort of people that gather and we hold ourselves accountable and we talk about the real things that are happening in your business. From various perspectives, you're able to see more of your blind spots as a business owner. So it just helps elevate you as an owner and as a professional because you're able to hear different perspective and how your business can grow.
Yeah, it's really important to surround yourself with people that push you to be better. No drama, no jealousy, just higher goals, good vibes, and positive energy. So then what did you do next for your GRIT project?
Another friend of mine, we built this book together and it was organically picked up at Target and Walmart and Barnes and Noble. It just shows you the power of pushing through the fear and the doubt and like following your passion to make things happen and just watching it all come to reality. And then here I am, 5 books later, and they're all international bestsellers. It's pretty cool.
So, Jennifer, tell us about how you were asked to be the keynote speaker at the Elevate conference in March 2024 at the Lake of the Ozarks. From what I understand, you were connected with Kelly Asbury, the SBDC site director at State Fair Community College, and got connected with MU Extension's Ashley Allen Brown.
I had been introduced to Ashley at an event that I was invited to at the state capitol at the Rotunda by Kelly. It was just constantly staying in touch and building that relationship and making synergy and seeing where I can add value. And Ashley shared the work she was doing, particularly with women. So I wanted to jump all in and support her efforts. And it was an incredible experience. And my whole purpose of why I do keynotes is to teach women grit and teach them to own their journey and teach them to explore those ideas that pop into their head and to be resilient and build out an action plan where they can hit their goals and be intentional, and then being courageous and intentional of having tenacity. Because in this role as a woman, you're kind of groomed to put everybody else before you, and it's empowering to own who you are so then you can help that many more. So that's kind of my purpose and mission in this world, is to help those that have lost their voice to re-own who they are and become what they're meant to be so they can truly make a difference in this world.
In that mentor role that you're in that really it's more than a cheerleader. You're not there to counsel women every step of the way. You're there to help them create their habits and their journey so that they can go where they want.
That's totally it. Like, I don't tell people what to do. I shine the light on them and help them reflect on all of their strengths to help them become more invigorated, more empowered to be who they are. So I call myself like the spark starter, right? I just re-spark their spark, but then they're able to see that they've had it the whole time. They just had to be reminded of their power so then they can continue to light up the world.
Jennifer, give us an example of one of your authors in your anthologies and their stories.
So you kind of hinted at this earlier and it made me think of this author. So there's so many incredible stories in these anthologies, but since you were talking about mindset, there's an author in Intention, and I just had the opportunity of interviewing her on my talk show last week in the studio. And her story is essentially about how our mind quits before our body. She was saying as a child, she hated those fitness tests that were always given at the school because it was just something that she didn't want to do. finally she challenged herself to doing a really long distance run. And while during the training, she quickly realized that her mind was constantly telling her to quit or stop or this hurts, but her body kept going. And it was right during the time where her dad was going through some hardships, and there were so many naysayers coming at her saying, just stop, focus on your dad, just stop. But she kept going. And that is so much the journey of life. There's always going to be naysayers when you start doing something different than what you're used to and showing up for yourself. And she chose to push forward and completed her first 5K. And now she does these regularly. But it was really cool because it's that mental breakthrough of showing yourself that doing it, you keep pushing through to that next level. She said actually the week that she completed her race was about the time when she had lost her dad. So she was more mentally and physically capable of handling those hardships during that time too. But I love that story. And there's so many stories in these books of talking about pushing through that adversity. And I think another thing in our world is we're not supposed to talk about the hard. We're just supposed to, share that at home because we don't want any pity. And it's not about taking pity. It's about owning your journey and showing yourself that you're able to push through and you're able to be strong.
Couldn't agree more. I lost my dad in October. I had been doing fitness for about 2 years, and I've lost weight and I've gotten in great shape. Well, ongoing. You're building up to handle something like that, and you don't even think about it. I mean, I didn't even put those together that, you get through a hard time like that, mentally pushing through. And so, yeah, I can really relate to that story. So, Jennifer, where do you see grit going from here? It seems to be ever growing. And what are your future plans for grit?
So I'm really excited to share because Grit started, obviously, my first anthology with 40 women, and now the book series have grown to 207. I'm continuing to build out books. I'm launching 2 more this year, and I'm still recruiting authors. I have one that's a veterans edition. So we're going to be highlighting women with grit that have been touched by the military. So it's called Operation Grit. And then I have another anthology. It's called Living Well with Grit, where it's those cycle breakers. It's either generational or personal. And they're sharing how they've decided to choose happy and to do things differently because they've seen their patterns and they're breaking through that pattern. So I see myself continuing to publish books. And in regards to my women's group that started from a group of 7 called Seat at the Table and then transformed into a group that supports over 1,200 women in Missouri, I see that continuing to grow to support all of the women in the state of Missouri so we can see our synergies and truly see how we can make an impact collectively. In regards to my speaking events, I want to continue to empower women all over the state of Missouri and internationally as well. So I have some opportunities outside of the Missouri area that are continuing to grow and flourish. And then I have just some fun things that I'm kicking off. I have a jewelry line. It's called the Jennifer Bardot collection. I have a couple other collaborations in the work with the Girl Scouts of USA where they're going to develop like a grit badge, trying to be intentional about how I see this larger impact, helping women, girls owning their journey and helping them develop grit. I have 3 boys, so I would love to eventually develop something for our youth, for boys to own their grit. I know there's incredible resources out there, but that's like down the road. So it's just really educating people of owning their grit and seeing that it's ever changing, and then just reigniting them to see that there's hope and there's always going to be hardships in our world, but there's always ways to overcome them.
That was Jennifer Bardot, founder, owner, author, publisher of the Grit Anthology, Growth, Resilience, Intention, and Tenacity. Jennifer was the keynote speaker for MU Extension's Elevate Conference at the Lake of the Ozarks in March 2024. Jennifer has also launched a jewelry line called Jennifer Bardot Signatures. Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit that like button and follow Show Me Mo Success on your favorite podcast app. And if you're listening to Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. This episode was edited by Shelby Cigars with research by John Clough. Senior editors for the podcast are Sarah Riley and Luke Dieterle. The senior program director for MU Extension's Business and Communities is Dr. Rob Russell. I'm Mike Quinata, and this is Show Me Mo Success.